Hey, this is Jamie Rowe from Guardian and Calamity Kills, and you're listening to the Rumors Are True podcast.
Welcome, this is Jeremy Allen Gould, and I'm coming to you today to confirm between God and of man that the rumors you have all heard are true. I started this podcast to have a platform for the bands and artists that I've worked with in the past, as well as new musicians and artists that influenced myself and many others. The Rumors Are True podcast is an opportunity for the artists to tell their story their way. I'm still in the business of confirming rumors. I still love a good conversation, and I still freaking love music. So thanks again for joining me on this journey, and I hope you like what you hear. With that said, the rumors are definitely true. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of the Rumors Are True podcast. My name is Jeremy, and today I welcome the legend, Les Carlsen. You know Les from the band Bloodgood. So honored to have Les on this podcast to speak about his history with the band, as well as what he's done over his illustrious career. So I hope you enjoy this latest episode with Les Carlsen. Les, what is up, my friend? I'm so honored to have you on the podcast.
Jeremy, it's good to be here.
Man, no, I'm truly, when I say I'm honored, I'm very honored. I remember listening to Bloodgood when I was a teenager and I had all those Heaven's Metal posters on my wall, and just being able to have this conversation with you is a super honor, and I'm really excited for you to just tell me your story, man.
Wow. Well, you know what? My story is like way different than it used to be. And, after I met Jesus, my story changed and it turned into a much better adventure, I would say. So
that's awesome. I love that. That's very cool. Awesome. Well, let's talk to me about what's going on in your world currently. What's new in your world?
Well, what's new in my world now is my backyard. We pulled out all the grass, and we're putting little pathways with DG and rocks and
Wow.
and little sitting places and like a little fireplace in the corner.
Sanctuary.
Yeah, just a place to hang out and be still and all that. So
That's so
that
cool.
we're doing that, which is it's kind of fun because it's a little bit different. Because mostly we spend our time writing and recording music.
Yeah.
Joyce and I, and me with the guys in the band, in the Les Carlsen band, and I love doing that. That's my passion. Really, is making songs, writing songs. And then I've got 5 grandchildren.
Wow.
And each one is so special. And being a grandfather is something that I used to dread. I thought, oh my gosh, who wants to be that old? And now I'm going, I should really sustain my life as long as I can
Absolutely.
to be around to see how exciting it is as they grow up.
That's so cool, man. I love that. Where are you living at now?
We live in a place called Tulare, California.
Oh, that's cool. Where's that in compare? Like, where's that in the state?
Well, okay, so it's south of Fresno by about 40 minutes,
Oh, okay.
and maybe north of Bakersfield by an hour and 10. It's off the 99,
Very cool.
Highway
Very-
99. Yeah, it's just a farm community, and it's beautiful.
That's awesome. I love that. I've been to California quite a few times, usually the LA area, and I've been to Redding once as well, kind of the northern area, and I loved it. It's beautiful. I'm a Florida guy myself, so I definitely, love the coasts, if you will.
What part of Florida?
I'm in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh,
So
yeah.
man, it's
I lived there for about 4 months.
really
Yeah, way in the early 70s.
wow.
I was doing the Broadway musical Hair at the
Yes,
Coconut Grove Playhouse in Miami.
that's so cool.
And I lived on Key Biscayne.
Nice, beautiful
Yeah,
area. Yeah,
It was, yeah.
absolutely. And I want to real quick say thank you to Nate Parrish for hooking this up. You mentioned you live near him. He's a good friend. He's been on the podcast before, and he kind of facilitated this. So thank you to Nate Parrish. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I'd like to say that too. And I also would like to say that in the course of life, you meet a lot of people, and some people are real standout people. And Nate Parrish is one of them for sure.
That's awesome. I love
Him
that.
and his wife and his little boy. They're a beautiful family.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Nate. All right, let's talk about growing up for you, Les. What are some of the bands, some of the records, some of the movies, concerts that kind of influenced you and put you in the direction that you went in?
Jeremy, we're going to go back so far. I don't know if you've got an audience that would even remember.
Or they're going to today.
Okay. Well, I would say my very first influence, big time influence, was Elvis Presley.
Yes.
And I literally saw him on the Ed Sullivan Show, only from the waist up, though, because they
Of course.
didn't allow cameras below the waist because he moved, too freely at that time, which I was a kid. I didn't know what the problem was. But so he was my first performer that influenced me. And then from there, it was the Beatles, and I went crazy. Michael Bloodgood and I are both super Beatle fans, Michael more so than me. And Michael was younger than me, but the Beatles totally influenced me, totally changed my direction in life. I was like, when I saw them, I went, you know what? That's what I want to do. Yeah. So from there, it went on to, the Rolling Stones and all the groups from England. And then from that point, I got more into the music. I got started singing to their records. And then I was I got more into the voice, more into rhythm and blues, black artists like Wilson Pickett, James Brown, Otis Redding.
Wow.
Even, what's her name? Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
She had a lot of impact. Rod Stewart, also was an influence. Yeah, so as I was evolving, with my voice, I was influenced by them. I like rhythm and blues.
Yeah. Well, what kind of pushed you into the direction of metal?
Well, I met Michael Bloodgood. So, I got saved and I quit rock and roll altogether because I wasn't interested.
Yeah.
And then I realized that my son at the time, Jeff, was 18, and he had a metal collection that I never really paid much attention to. After I got saved, I looked at the album covers in a different light and realized, wow, that's pretty dark, pretty demonic. And I thought, well, maybe I could do something in that genre that would influence kids like my son to know about Jesus.
Yeah.
And then I met Michael Bloodgood, and that whole thing is history, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Was there any particular of those metal bands that really intrigued you in terms of just style or just influence on you in that aspect?
I guess so. I was mostly, like I say, a more of a pop guy,
Yeah.
David Bowie was also somebody I liked, and Journey. But I was mostly a pop guy. So when I did listen, I think it was Dio was the first guy I listened to, who is phenomenal. And because I realized, well, I'm going to try and sing in a heavy metal band, so maybe I should listen to somebody. So let's just go to the best guy out there, Ronnie James Dio. And, listening to him, it kind of, I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. So then I started to try and take on that sort of a vibe. I don't think I sound like Dio at all. I ended up sounding pretty much like me.
Yeah.
But I used some of the tricks and the big long high notes and the gruffness, and all that. And put it together, and I was going, oh, you know what, this works pretty good. So let's stay with it.
I love Dio, by the way. That's hearing you. I know you said you don't sound like him, but I can hear the influence of it, though. That's cool.
Well, he's very theatrical in his phrasing and his investment in the lyric.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's important. A lot of people don't understand that when they sing. They may have great voices and everything, but if you don't understand that you become a character within a song, then you might be lacking.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned Michael Bloodgood. Let's talk about the beginning of Bloodgood. From your perspective, the culmination of that band coming together, and just bring me through the beginning of that.
Yeah, well, part of that was the story about my son. I was concerned about him. I'd gotten saved and my eyes were open, and he was totally into metal. So I was sort of looking, I felt kind of led to getting into a metal band. And I even tried to put a couple bands together, but I was a young Christian and it was hard to find Christian players. And I realized right away that's not going to work. You can't mix fresh water with salt water kind of thing. Sure. So anyway, I saw an ad in the paper. It was called The Rocket. Paper's a rock, local Seattle fan paper. And it said, white metal singer, well-rooted in the word. Oh. And it was Michael Bloodgood's ad. And I thought, white metal, okay. And I read the word, and maybe I'll give this guy a call. So I called him up, and we clicked really well.
Yeah.
There's, if you've seen, I know we're going to talk about Trenches of Rock. There's a little bit more detail if you watch the movie. So watch the movie.
Yes.
But I met Michael and was very impressed by him because he was filled with the Spirit of God, and he was just wonderful in every aspect. We got together and talked about doing music for Jesus. And Michael had a concept that we would take rock songs, Led Zeppelin songs, Dio songs, and change the lyrics to Christian lyrics. And I thought, I would rather just write original material and be metal. Yeah. And Michael liked that idea, and JT liked that idea, and so we went in that direction.
Was the name? Were you always going to go with Bloodgood, or was that the intention, or was there any other names that you guys were thinking about doing?
I think that there, in the very beginning, there was really no name for the band. Nobody had named it, but Michael actually had a list of names, and I don't really remember any of the names on the list, but I do remember that Bloodgood was on the list, and I just looked at him and I said, dude, there's not even a debate. It's just Bloodgood is like, for a Christian metal band, there could not be a better name, and it's your name, and so let's go with that. And so Michael was like, yeah, I think he probably wanted that originally, but he didn't want to push that, because it was his name, because he was kind of a humble guy, a sweetheart. And but when I said, yeah, let's do it, then he went, okay, yeah, good idea, let's do it.
Now, let me ask you this. Starting out as that band, as that name, I know in the 80s probably was, not so much jarring. It's a great name, but it's like, for that CCM world or that world, was that something that people were, I know you kind of spoke about it in the film about how there was opposition. Was there opposition about the name and even just that in and of itself?
Well, I think that, when you know something's right, it's right, whether there's opposition or not. Opposition is probably a good thing, and it was, in fact. But yeah, and I always thought that was kind of strange, because the entire idea of salvation only happened because of the blood of Christ. So for the Christian community to feel weird about incorporating blood into something, come on, blood good. And it wasn't blood bad, it was blood good, the good news of Jesus. So hey, sometimes religious people can confuse you.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Well, let's talk about, you signed with Frontline Records. What was that like at the time? Was there any other labels interested? Was that kind of a, whoa, this is cool, we're signing to a record label? Kind of bring me through that.
Okay, so Michael had a relationship with, Daryl Mansfield.
Okay.
And I haven't really spoken to Daryl for a while, not for any reason other than he's hard to get a hold of. But what a great guy, and what a great influence he was. And Daryl was such a strong evangelist, and he was a good friend of Michael's. And of course, I was never saved. I wasn't saved at that time, so I didn't really know about Daryl and his reputation as a Christian evangelist. But when I met him, and he saw us, he was so impressed by us that, and he had a connection with Frontline Records through Jimmy Kempner. And so he kind of said, I'd like to bring your demo tape to Jim Kempner and see what he thinks. So in terms of shopping for labels, we really were not in that mindset at the time. We were mostly just trying to look for the doors that God was opening. Yeah. And I believe that we were supposed to sign with Frontline, and I believe we were supposed to go through any and everything that happened.
Sure.
Because it's all a process that's way deeper than us. And I think that overall it was the right label. I mean, I'm sure we could have signed with a secular label and things may have been different. But when I look back at the overall legacy of Bloodgood that still remains, even after Michael has gone home, there's still a legacy from Bloodgood because we stayed pretty pure as to why we got into this. Mm-hmm. And I think it's been true from the first album to the very last, that it's always been about Christ, and we never really swayed far from it, Yeah. I mean, there was some things about some issues, but basically it was all about the redemption, the salvation. And I think that Frontline did the right thing with us as far as getting us there and keeping us there. We didn't have a chance to have our heads blown up,
Yeah.
Which could have been hard to deal with. So, we basically were the Pauls out there. We were we got beat up a lot, and we were out there just struggling, but Jesus struggled a lot too.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good thing. It was a good path for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Frontline, love that label when I was a kid, or I say kid, teenager.
Oh, they did great.
Yeah, amazing bands on that. Absolutely, that was cool. And that's I probably discovered you guys on like a Frontline sampler or something. It's probably how I discovered you in general. Well, signing to that label, how did that make you feel good at the time? And were you excited? I mean, obviously you guys are young, and did you think, oh, this is we're gonna take over the world? What was that? And I don't mean that. I mean that jokingly, but just having that excitement.
Well, it was the most amazing thing is that it just happened so quickly. It just felt like God was just, like he was the wings beneath our wings. It was just the wind beneath our wings. And so a lot of doors were open to us, and the records were, I think we pre-sold 40,000 records or something like that for the first album. And it was pretty amazing that it just kind of caught. We opened for Stryper. Our first 2 gigs were with Stryper.
Wow.
One in Bellingham and one in Seattle at the Paramount. Time Magazine was there to see Stryper, and they saw us and all that. But it was just, it was amazing. I mean, our second gig was in front of 1,500 people.
Holy cow.
And we were received really well. And then the record label signed us, and the distribution happened, and it was a whirlwind.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that first record, the self-titled Bloodgood record. Maybe bring me through that time of recording that record and kind of your thoughts, maybe memories from that time and what that was like for you guys, recording a first proper full length.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about being young, I was 36 years old. I know I look like I'm 12 in the band, but I was actually 36 years old, and I'd been around the world a few times. Whereas the other guys, they'd had some experiences playing, probably not as much as me. I mean, I'd had albums out and done television in Europe and in Italy, and I'd had some success.
Sure.
In the record business. I was in the Broadway musical Hair, so I was more of the seasoned guy. But that first album for Michael and David and JT, with Daryl's guidance, thank God Daryl was there. They did great. And the process was good because Daryl was on top of it. He knew how to put it together. But they were green, but they were excited, and I was excited too.
Yeah.
It was almost, I was like, I can't believe, Lord, that you're just making this happen right here. And so there was a lot of great energy around it. But in the making of the first album, I think everybody learned a lot,
Yeah.
And Daryl rearranged a few things. It made songs flow a little better. And I love the way that album started.
Yeah.
Except the Lamb of the living God. It's just, what?
That's amazing.
Let's just get to the point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you kind of mentioned how, hearing it done, what were your thoughts? Were you just like, did it turn out the way you wanted it to?
Well, it did. Ultimately, it did. And I love music, and I love making music, and I actually love listening to music that I make. I mean, some artists, they do it and they never listen. But I listened to that album over and over and over and kind of tried to be caught up in it because you're listening. Sure. Because you're working, and then you're trying to listen objectively, and then you realize I have to go away from the album for a while and then listen to it. And then when you come back and you listen, you go, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Then that's when you really know you've got something, I guess. But
yeah. How do you feel about it now, looking back on it?
I just think it had a lot of raw energy. The songs were really good, and they were a powerful message. The performances they were honest performances.
Yeah.
They weren't mental at all. It was just raw and guys that meant it.
Yeah.
Playing with everything that they had. Maybe we didn't have the greatest chops in the world, but we were certainly sincere.
Yeah.
And it reads that way and sounds that way.
That's awesome. Was everything written when you went into the studio at that point, or did you write anything in the studio?
Yeah, pretty much. Everything was pretty much written on that album.
So you were ready
and the reason is because when we first got together, we had decided that when we would get together for practice, we had decided early on that we would pray first before we even picked up the guitars, that we'd have the wives and the guys, and we would pray, and we would ask for God's guidance and his inspiration. And when we felt that we had done that sufficiently, then we would pick up our instruments, and it would just seem like the ideas would just come out. And just flow.
That's amazing.
And, Michael had some songs that he'd written prior, and I had some songs that I'd written prior that could be Christian songs, etc. And so, we had been writing sort of aside, but this thing, when we came together for Bloodgood, really was happening.
Yeah.
I mean, the song Anguish and Pain, Joyce wrote the lyrics to Anguish and Pain. Wow. I jammed the melody with the guys, and we put that song together. I think that was the first song we actually put together.
That's cool. What was you mentioned selling 40,000 pre-orders or upcoming or before
40,000.
Yeah, how did that wind up doing overall? I mean, did it explode after that once you put the record out?
Well, yeah, because I think the timing of it all, you had all the metal magazines. Yeah. It was metal time. Yeah. And when Stryper was a part of that because of MTV, and there was definitely that just sort of a natural challenge between, the demonic bands and the Christian bands. And there was just a natural hey, let's go there for a while because there's controversy, and rock and roll is always controversial, and there's always some sort of something that goes against the grain, and this is perfect, And so the metal magazines, we were in Circus Magazine, wow. Hammer, Metal Forces, Aardschok, I don't know. But we got interviewed and photographed and put into these mags.
Wow.
And so people were just seeing us like a metal band,
Yeah.
So the timing of it was really great.
That's awesome. I love
it. So we did the first album, and then we went into Detonation after that. First album was produced by Daryl Mansfield. The second album was produced by Michael, Les, and David.
Yeah, let's talk about that record. Obviously a progression. You get a little more comfortable as you've put that first record out. You've been playing shows together more, but bring me through the recording of that record and kind of your thoughts and memories from that time.
Well, Detonation, the first album was directed by Daryl. He led the way. The second album, we had felt basically, I guess it was my idea. I said, look, why don't we produce this album, and why don't we ask the record company to give us the budget and let us handle it. Let us do it.
Yeah.
And we'll still use the same engineer, but we'll be the guys that put it together. So we rented a rehearsal studio that had a stage.
Oh, cool.
And we would go to work. It was like, it was one of the larger studios. And we would just go to work with our little lunch pails, and we'd had the drums and everything was set up. So we actually wrote Detonation in that room.
Wow.
And we had the instrumentation set up, and it was meant to just be a real experience that comes really from us. And it turns out that I think Detonation is probably the most popular album that we ever released. And also was very groundbreaking because we got into some theatrical stuff, between Crucify, Messiah, and just the whole Eat the Flesh and Holy Fire and all that. It just all worked.
Yeah. Were those songs easy to write? Did you feel like they were just flowing out of you guys?
Well, I think we knew what we wanted to do. We wanted to preach the gospel. So I think that those ideas came out. For Crucify, I had told Paul Jackson, who wasn't in the band, but Michael and I had worked for Paul Jackson's band. We were roadies for Paul. But I said, I need somebody to write some heavy guitar stuff for me. I'm going to write this song, and I want a real heavy, double kick, just in your face. And Paul gave me a rough copy or a rough view of Crucify. He had no idea, other than the music that he gave me, that just double kick drum thing. And so I took that and I listened to it over and over and over and over and over, and I started coming up with this idea of Crucify. And then I thought Pontius Pilate and the whole historical thing. So I went to the scriptures, and I was, so I just put the song together around that. And then I thought after that, well, we've got to do the crucifixion, the Messiah. We've got to do something like that. So anyway, that was born, those songs. Paul and I wrote Crucify, and then David and I wrote the Messiah.
That's crazy.
And put them together, and it just turned out that became sort of the central theme for Bloodgood. So that the first album worked with that, and the third album worked with that. It all worked because we brought other songs in later, like Seven from Rock and a Hard Place, and all of a sudden we started to have this kind of rock opera thing happening.
That's so cool. How did you feel about Detonation when you finally heard it completed? I mean, it sounds like it's turned out the way you wanted it to.
Well, again, it was pretty raw. It was almost a live sounding record. It again had massive energy, and we had switched drummers to Mark Welling, and Mark Welling was an absolute monster on the drums. I mean, he was just like Animal from the Muppets, and he was what we needed for that album.
Yes.
And so I think, it was like having Mark come in fresh and really hitting the drums the way he hit them, and his dexterity and everything about him was so metal. He practically stood up. I mean, he didn't sit down. He's like always looked like he was standing up doing his double kicks. So I think he was a big part of the inspiration of Detonation becoming what it became.
Yeah.
Not so much in the writing, but in his approach to the drums.
Yeah.
It was definitely up on a level with the big boys in the world. Yeah. And so I think Mark was really key. And it lifted our games too. So, that's how, it came. Again, God gets all the credit, and rightfully so, because he's the one that gives us the inspiration, and he puts people together, and he works in our hearts and our souls, our minds and everything. And, we came up with Detonation through God's inspiration. Yeah. But people would be hard-pressed to match that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a classic.
How do you feel about it now, looking back on it?
It still stands. I mean, it stands on its own. It just has a vibe that's true.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but again, it's like if you get a great photograph that makes you look better than you actually are, you go, hey, I love that, Well, that album captured the reality of the artists from their heart, from their soul. And it got recorded and it got put out.
Yep.
And I think humans sense real stuff. It draws them in. Anything that's real and true, draws you. And that it's real and it's true and it's powerful.
That's awesome. I love that. You mentioned it being probably one of your biggest records. What was the? I mean, when that came out, did it do really well? And did you feel like you were making a buzz? And I guess were you still kind of making waves in the metal magazines and stuff? And how was that for that record?
Well, I think that I remember that Dave Mustaine wrote something in Circus Magazine.
Wow.
That Bloodgood was the real deal. Like there's a lot of Christian bands coming together, but this is a real band. These guys are for real. They could play with the big boys, and that made us feel good. Also, Europe was calling. Europe, Germany, Sweden, Norway, England. They were calling because Europe is way different than America.
Sure.
In America, if you're not in the club, you don't get to be in the club. You gotta, everything's gotta be right. In Europe, it's like, who's ripping it up? We don't care if they're Christians or or secular, whatever. We don't care. Are they a great band? And in Europe, we were judged as being a great band.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Not in America, though. We didn't get a chance.
Was the shows in Europe you're talking about, were they normal metal festivals, or were they just Christian festivals? What was that like?
Well, there were Christian festivals. We also did some big concerts that were more that had some secular bands. So you would do some fairly large shows, and because we were metal and we came on, we looked good and we moved a lot, and we were just a good metal band. We were received really well.
That's great. That's great, as you should be, I think that's one of the things about some of the Christian bands over the years that has stood out. It's like they can hold their own, and they always have held their own, and they sing about different things than the secular bands, but the reality is like they're bringing it just as well as the secular bands, which to me, music is music, and it's just, you're going to get your your songs out there, and you guys just have something that you're passionate, that you sing about, that you want to share with others, and it's beautiful. And I think God's honored you for that.
Yeah. So Jeremy, I want to add to that too, because I'm thinking about that festival in particular, Greenbelt, which is a huge festival in Europe. The press would come and interview the bands, and Bloodgood, between Michael and David and myself at the time, and Mark, but Michael, David, and myself, we were like, I don't know, we were good with the press. We made them laugh. We were funny. We were like the Beatles. We just made the press love us, and we just had them going. And so, I don't know, that was part of that. Then we had a band that sounded cool and great with a different message. And so we just caught on big time there.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. It's cool that you got to go and do what you love and that you're passionate about. And you got to, unfortunately, like you said, the US is a different world, but it's cool that you got to go over there and do your thing. And again, God honored you for it. And those memories that you have from that time, and just overall that you've really, affected and influenced a lot of people in a positive way. So that's awesome. I love hearing that. That's exciting, man. Awesome, man. Well, let's talk about Rock in a Hard Place, the next record. Bring me through recording of that, thoughts, memories, kind of what that was like. That's a different record from Detonation. I know it's a lot, like you said, it's kind of a theme, but it definitely, some of my favorite songs are on that record too. So,
Rock in a Hard Place.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that was produced by Terry Shelton, and Terry was he was a little bit more heavy-handed. He was going to come in and take the Scruffy Boys and turn us into a group that was more, maybe more radio savvy,
polished. Yeah,
a little more polished. And I know that Whitesnake was a big sort of influence at the time.
Sure.
And now, okay, I'm gonna take a little sidetrack because it's interesting. Whitesnake. Before Whitesnake existed, I was singing with my wife in bars before we were saved, And this woman named Trudy Green came in and saw us. She was associated with Loverboy, I guess, at the time. Came in and saw us and asked me if I would be interested in singing in a group that she's putting together called Whitesnake.
Wow.
And I was like, no, I'm not interested.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
That is so crazy.
And I mean, it was before David Coverdale, but she had this concept, and she literally, I didn't know who she was, and she literally was interested in me, but she wasn't interested in Joyce because she was putting together this futuristic rock, heavy metal rock band that was pop oriented or whatever. So it is ironic that, I'd gone through all those changes, and then by the time we're at Rock and a Hard Place, we're actually trying to be like Whitesnake. Yeah. And I don't even know if the guys in the band knew that story, but that definitely was something. Yeah, it's hilarious, actually. God's funny that way. He really is. And so we did, the idea was to try and get some radio airplay, which we did get, actually. Yeah. Rock and a Hard Place, She's Gone was up in the Northwest on the Cube, 90, the rock stations.
Yeah.
And man, it sounded really good. And that airplay that we got actually attracted the actually one of the guys from Def Leppard, one of the road managers.
Oh, wow.
And so he took Michael and I and flew us to Southern California to see Def Leppard, and he was sort of entertaining, signing us, managing us, because we had airplay up in the Northwest and it was doing kind of good.
Yeah.
But after they got to meet us and we were hanging out, I think that they realized, oh, wait, these guys are Christians and they're real Christians. And, there's not going to be any chicks backstage. And
yeah,
it's probably not going to work.
But that's really flattering, though. The fact that he, was into your songs, and I think that's cool that he took his time to look into it. And even though it didn't work out, I guess maybe in his mind, it's cool that you maybe even planted a seed there somehow. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that you can't get much bigger than Def Leppard. At that time they were. So to have their management look at us and really consider that. So yeah, a lot of that stuff. Again, God has a sense of humor. But I look back at that and go, yeah, I guess we actually were very, very close to being huge.
Yeah.
And the end of Trenches of Rock, if you see the reaction to Bloodgood in that movie, I don't know if you've seen it, but yeah, it looks like a big time rock band.
Yeah,
and
absolutely, man.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really interesting. And then, then Michael felt called to starting a church. And so he sort of just ended the band for a while. Wow. And, yeah, I can't say that I actually wanted to go along with that. I mean, obviously, I went along with it because Michael was Michael, and that's what he was going to do. And I was not interested in starting another band at the time. That was my ministry, I felt. And if Michael felt he was going there, well, then I just let it go. And I started doing stuff that I had never done before. I started selling artwork door to door and cold calls, and I ended up doing really well for the next 17 to 20 years. And bought a house and 3 cars and all that
incredible
stuff. With the hot tub.
Did you miss it? Did you miss the music?
I didn't really miss it that much. Because I wasn't in Bloodgood anymore. I wasn't, there was still the Bloodgood legacy and that sort of thing. But it was just very interesting to go from being sort of a rock star to somebody that comes through a door cold call and being told to get out, can't you read the sign? Treated like dirt. And it was humbling and wonderful. And I don't know. Again, it's just this journey is so strange.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was the way it was.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm sure that was an adjustment for sure. Going from, playing to, not so much fans, but people that want to hear your music, and then next thing you know, you're knocking on the door.
Well, it's funny. I'm knocking on doors, selling artwork. In one place, I come to this one place, and there's a guy working in the warehouse, and what's his name? Oz Fox.
Oh my gosh!
So I'm pitching Oz Fox's business where he's working in the warehouse for some artwork for the lobby, and Oz comes out, and I go, Oz, what the? And there's like, Les, what's going on here?
That's amazing.
Because I think Stryper had kind of slowed down a little bit, and there was just this time, and it was just funny that Oz and I met during that time and became pretty good friends. We still are very good friends, actually.
That's so cool, dude. Let me ask you real quick. I know you kind of jumped to the hiatus, but Out of the Darkness record. Yeah, let's go over that and the All Stand Together briefly. Just kind of bring me through those records real quick, kind of your thoughts on it.
Okay, so Out of the Darkness, David did the first three records, David Safiro. Mark did the second and third. He did Detonation, and he did Rock in a Hard Place. Then David was just not able to tour as much as he, as we were going to require.
Sure.
And it was a surprise that David left the band to Michael and I. But it wasn't weird. I mean, there was no falling out or anything like that. And then Mark Welling actually left at the same time as well. So now we're like, oh, okay, well, Michael, you and I got to write all the songs. And so we met the challenge, and Michael and I wrote pretty much all the songs on Out of the Darkness. I'd have to have it in front of me to actually realize, all the titles. But we did well. We asked Paul Jackson to come in and be the guitarist. And so Paul, who had actually written songs with us, he was very familiar with the group.
Yeah.
He came in, and his story was basically, hey, I do pop music, but it was like me, I can listen to metal and I can kind of get the vibe. And he had written, Crucify.
Yeah.
He so we knew he could be a metal guy. And he was just doing his best imitation of metal guys, And he came in and he just nailed Out of the Darkness. I mean, he played superbly.
Yeah. And
just came in and filled in some pretty big shoes, David Safiro,
Yeah.
And Paul just nailed it. And
was that a challenge, him leaving, like you and Michael having to write those songs, and you said Paul came in, but was that a challenge to write that record?
It really was pretty seamless. We didn't feel like we lost anything. Michael and I just clicked. We just knew we had to do what we had to do, and we got in there and wrote the stuff. And we were well versed in doing albums. It wasn't like we were newcomers anymore. We were known worldwide. So you have a confidence and a swagger. Yeah. And we came in, and we had Terry Shelton do that album too. And we brought in Kevin Whistler he was with Watchmen, another Christian band.
Yeah.
And so he came in, and of course, Michael wrote Out of the Darkness. We gave Kevin that, Kevin, you want to be in the band? There's this big drum solo. Oh, yeah, okay, let me do it. And he just nailed it. And so actually, Out of the Darkness was also a very well received.
I was going to say, I thought it was. I remember that being really big, at least, from my perspective. I definitely remember those songs. It was a great record. I mean, how do you feel about it? How did you feel about it then, and how do you feel about it now?
I was very impressed with Paul Jackson, but I also was, I don't want to say at a loss, but I knew the chemistry that David and Michael and I had, especially. I knew that on stage. And that chemistry was, if you'd ever seen early Bloodgood, it was pretty jaw-dropping. And then, so I kind of was apprehensive a little bit without David. But when Paul came in, he nailed it. He killed it. And the album was received really well. Maybe more than I thought it would be. It was received real hot, boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
We really didn't lose anything. I think people thought that after Rock and a Hard Place, Out of the Darkness kind of returned a little bit back towards Detonation. So it was an adjustment. And in the long run, I think it was great that we did Rock and a Hard Place. I think we established that we were deeper than just a speed metal band. And it was kind of like Queen,
Yeah.
They would do Stone Cold Crazy and then they'd do Killer Queen or something. I mean, it's just, it just showed people that we were a little deeper.
Sure.
Musically. We had some depth, but we could always rock, so.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So we got back to that. So I loved the album.
Yeah. It's great, right?
And, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about All Stand Together, the last before the hiatus. Bring me through the recording of that. Your thoughts on that record as well, and I definitely think this is another, pivot in terms of the sounding of the records. What was the music at the times of when it was coming out? Was that influencing this record? Just kind of bring me through the recording of this.
Yeah. Okay. So that's when we switched labels. Now, prior to that, we had done that rock theater, Shaking the World, and
yeah, the live ones.
Yeah. That we had done that, and we thought that was our baby. We thought we were out of Frontline, and we were going to move on to the next thing. When actually Frontline turned it into an option that we didn't know about. And so they owned that, even though we had put the whole thing together. But, they certainly, we were using songs from the first, second, and third album as well. But so that was all legitimate. It's just, we just didn't know. We thought we were going from Frontline to our own production now.
I got you.
But they certainly did own some music and publishing in it, and it turns out that they produced it. They ended up saying, "No, we've got to produce this. It's ours." And so there was a little bit of a struggle there, but it turned out good because they had great distribution and that they got that thing out all over the world. And as it turns out, that was another groundbreaking thing that Bloodgood did, because who was doing that?
Yeah.
Who was doing, a live rock theater recorded live in front of live audiences with that many theatrics and props and costume changes and choreography? I mean, I don't even know how did that happen?
Yeah.
And it happened because, again, God built us a certain way and brought us together, and that's what happened. But I think it was a tremendous accomplishment.
Absolutely.
So that leads into All Stand Together, because All Stand Together, now we are free from Frontline. We sign with a whole new label, other people from Maranatha that are starting this new label called Broken, I guess. And they offered us our ownership and publishing.
Wow.
Not all the publishing, but they gave us some. And writers, of course, you keep. But so we had a bigger piece of it, and they gave us a much larger budget. Every album that we had done prior was around $20,000. I mean, that had to include the cover and everything.
Yeah.
This one, I think we got $80,000.
Wow.
And so we got some pretty amazing engineers and a great producer, Biff Vincent. And the studio was amazing, and we were really treated like the big boys with that one. And we ate steak once in a while, and it was pretty good. And we were seasoned, and we brought in Dan Huff. It was Dan or Dave? The drummer, Dan, I think.
Yeah.
And because that was Paul's idea, and Paul Jackson had really stepped up and had become a real big part of this album. He brought in Huff to play drums, which was great. Yeah. And we were on a whole nother level. And we were still going for that hit, stuff.
Sure.
So, and as it turns out, that album was what really, really put us over the top in Europe. That's amazing. Because all of that stuff that happened towards the end in Europe with All Stand Together and Fear No Evil and all the songs from All Stand Together, I Want to Live in Your Heart and Out of Love, and that was being played on the radio over there. And we were getting airplay, and the shows were all sold out, and
that's incredible.
The response was just amazing. I mean, in Germany, they'd be singing all the lyrics, not just the choruses. They were singing the verse lyrics with us.
That's amazing.
And it was pretty impressive. But you'd hear Madonna on the radio, then you hear Bloodgood.
That's amazing.
How
did you feel about it when you were done with it? Were you stoked on it?
I thought it was really great. I thought it was a great, great record. And it's got a lot of great songs on it.
Yeah, absolutely. The ones you mentioned, I'm like, yeah, that's. I remember it coming out as well, and it being like, just like you said, that kind of that not so much radio-ness to it, but just that catchiness to it.
Yeah,
I loved that about it as well. It's a great record overall. How do you feel about it now?
Well, I go back and forth because so many people really did love the record. Oz Fox and I took the masters. We got the masters back on that, and we went through it and took all the keyboards off, and Oz added his guitar to a lot of the cuts.
Wow.
And we redid it, remixed it. David remixed some of the stuff. David Safiro remixed Rounded to the Rocks, and we took the keyboards off, and we made it more raw. So if you hear the soundtrack for the movie, some cuts from All Stand Together were remixed. Keyboards were taken out. Oz Fox was added, and some things took place that were pretty interesting, that hit pretty hard.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you mentioned Michael Bloodgood leaving the band, temporarily to be a pastor, and you kind of were making the rounds around the neighborhood. What put you guys back together? Almost 20 years later for Dangerously Close. But kind of bring me through the, coming back together, and let's go through that record.
Yeah. Well, in the process, Michael had. He started a church up in the Northwest in Redmond, Kirkland area, up in just east of Seattle, and had some success up there with his church. And, that's what he was doing. And he reached the youth pretty well there. And I think he had something to do with the guys from Grandma Train,
oh, yeah.
Kind of being under his wing a bit. And so there was a buzz going on with Michael's church. And I don't really have all the timelines and things together necessarily. But I know that after I'd moved down to California and I was doing the art thing, Michael had gotten something had happened to his artery in his neck. It kind of unraveled. I forget what they call that. But it was life-threatening.
Wow.
And it was life-threatening. It was serious. And so Michael spent some time in the hospital, and he had lost his voice. And I think that during that time, maybe he felt like if he ever gets out of this, he might get back into the band or start the band again. Michael tells the story better than me in the movie, but in that healing that took place, and then ministering in Europe again at the metal, there was this metal retreat that lasted or that happened every year. Yeah. And Michael was a speaker there, and he met Oz Fox there again. And Michael wanted Oz Fox to be in the band. And so that was through a course of events that took place. And my wife just came in.
Sorry.
So the door that slammed is on the recording. Hi, Joyce. So anyway, that's when Dangerously Close sort of took root after Oz got back into the band. And
what was that like, having Oz in the band and, a little bit different dynamic? And that's cool. I mean, Bloodgood, Stryper together, essentially. And, this record's great. I love this record. Yeah, bring me through recording that.
Well, first of all, Oz and Paul Jackson just clicked. And Oz and me clicked, and Oz and Michael. Oz clicks with everybody. Oz is just a real guy, super talented, very easy, very humble. Just, and wow, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oz he's the real deal, He's the real deal. He's been through a lot.
Yes, yeah.
With his surgeries, and he's I admire him, and I just love him like a brother. But having him in the band and what he brought for that album, and was fantastic. And I did write 3 songs for that album with Oz, and it was Bread Alone, Child on Earth, and Man in the Middle. Nice. And when we put those songs together, we had so much fun, him and I. And then Paul Jackson actually produced that record.
Yeah.
That album was a big struggle.
Really?
To do that album. I don't know why it was, but there was a lot of things we don't have time to go into. But once again, it was perfect, and it was the right sort of struggle that made it so great. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't knocked down, drag out stuff, but there was some drama that took place, and some positioning and all kinds of stuff that took place. But because of that, we came up with this fantastic record. Absolutely. And I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember when it came out, I was like, oh, cool, new Bloodgood, and I love this record. It's so fantastic, and it's you guys never. It seems like you never lost a step. You guys are just out there ripping it still, and so some of the songs I feel like on this, if that it came out 20 years ago, they'd been massive. I mean, they're it's says that, like we mentioned earlier, Lamb of God, such a great song.
Yeah.
And overall just the record, and it sounds fantastic too. Like you mentioned, Paul producing it. But yeah, man, I love this record. I'm stoked that you guys got to put it out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's how do you feel about it now? It sounds like you're obviously fond of it.
You know what? I love it. David Safiro came in towards the end, and just kind of shined it a little bit. He worked really well with the engineer up there from Seattle, and from Pacific Studios, and then Paul, of course, did a fantastic job in just overseeing it and putting it together. But David came in and did a little bit of. He actually mastered it, and he cranked it up. He got it to that level where you put it on the, you put it down and it's sounding as loud as you two, or anybody else. That
so cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
amazing, awesome, man. That's so cool. Well, I wanted to talk about your solo record that you wound up doing. He's Coming. What kind of I mean, I'm assuming you missed music, and kind of bring me through that record and kind of how that began, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Well, that record was my solo project came about because, Michael had a stroke. So, I mean, I was working on some solo things before Michael had a stroke, and it was maybe a direction that we were going to go in. But the true direction at the time was for another Bloodgood album to take place. And so I was writing with Bloodgood music in mind for a Bloodgood album. And then when that happened to Michael, the album got put on hold. The next Bloodgood album got put on hold. So I thought, well, since Michael is not able to do the Bloodgood album, then I will do a solo album now while I'm waiting for him to heal. And so some of the songs that I was going to submit to the Bloodgood album, like Jesus Freak Show and Judas is Dead and He's Coming, and those were songs that I was going to submit for a Bloodgood release. And Michael had songs too for the Bloodgood release. Same sort of thing, where we were just doing stuff together for a Bloodgood album. But since Michael was going to be out of commission for 6 months to a year to 2 years, I thought, I'm just gonna take the songs that I'd written and use them for a solo album. And so I did, because I figured these songs were written for now, And when Michael's ready to come back, I'll be writing new songs for that, and I will have gone, and Michael will have gone through whatever journey there was there. So that's what happened. And then there were songs that on that album, on the He's Coming album, that were not for Bloodgood at all. They weren't really designed for Bloodgood at all, and they're on that album. So
what was that like, recording without Michael on that project?
Well, doing anything without Michael is I mean, it's too deep to even really talk about. Because every word turns over something, a memory, or if I had my way, we never would have lost Michael. He never would have had a stroke. We never would have even had to endure that or be a part of that and struggle through that. But we did, and there's nothing you can do about it except embrace God for who he is and know that he's got Michael in the right place. But no, I don't think that the Les Carlsen album would have come out. I think we would have stayed totally in the Bloodgood camp and continued down that road. I mean, there was a lot going on for Bloodgood. Chris Jericho had come into our lives. I don't know if you know him, but
wrestler,
he's such a hardcore fan of all that Christian metal stuff, but he really loved Bloodgood, and he was supportive. He was there with us with White Cross and Michael on that last show. He was the MC. We brought him in, and he had had us on his Talk as Jericho, and I just feel like he would have helped us get to a higher level. Yeah. But when Michael went down, it was like, it made no sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You can't really do anything about it. You have to just keep going.
Yeah.
So I don't think Les Carlsen's solo album would have happened.
Yeah. I get that.
Probably. But since it is what it is now, I feel like I have this legacy in Bloodgood, and I feel like I'm still, I should still be used because I can still sing and I can still perform. And, when I'm 76 years old now, and I'm in the red zone, it's like I'm about to score a touchdown. And I just figure I might as well just sing and perform as strong and as hard as I can until I can't run with the big boys anymore, but I'm still running with the big boys. So, and I challenged the younger ones.
Yes.
because you got to be, you don't just kind of fizzle out here.
Yeah.
You know, you take it all the way. We're Christians. We're not men of the world anymore. This is, we belong to Christ. You just fight till the end. That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm going to keep making music as long as I'm able.
Good.
And I'm still very excited about making it too.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome. Well, let's briefly talk about Trenches of Rock, the movie that came out, told the story of Bloodgood. It's really great. I loved it. Yeah, what was that like? You kind of mentioned going on Jericho's podcast about that and stuff. What was that like to kind of have that movie and that documentary made about you guys and the legacy that you guys have?
Well, again, it was, Michael Bloodgood's son, traveled on the road with us in the early days when we were out there with the little, bus and truck, not even like RV and truck and van. And, he was with us and witnessed all of that when he was a young boy. He helped with merchandise. He was out there, he was in the trenches with us. And then he got interested in film. And he just thought, wow, what a wonderful idea for me to do a documentary film representing the band Bloodgood that I was a part of with my dad's band and everything. And he's just a super, super talented, creative person. And he'd become a ballet dancer, Austin Ballet, and he'd been in dance. All the Bloodgood guys are these amazing dancers and performers. And Paul just put this thing together. He started putting the concept together. And when he did it, he had his ideas intact. He interviewed us separately, asking similar questions. And then he would put the answers together from different, where we weren't even involved. We didn't know what the other guy said. So it's very interesting. I mean, it's really genius the way he put this together. And he worked on it, and Paul is one of those guys. He really works hard to get things perfect. He's very thoughtful, and he came up with a fantastic film that had nothing to do with us other than we were subject matter. But he gets the credit,
That's cool, man. I love that.
And it wasn't us, that was the great thing. It really wasn't a Bloodgood film. It was a film about Bloodgood, directed and conceived by Michael Bloodgood. It's just, again, God is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this: How do you feel about the legacy of the band overall? Just I know you've talked pretty passionately today about just what God's done in your life and just what you've been through, but just the overall legacy and the influence and the heart of the band, just overall, your thoughts on that.
Well, I think the world, has heard this. I mean, it's pretty much distributed. Bloodgood music is everywhere in the world. It's a different time now, so the world is open to any and everything, it seems like. And so the legacy just keeps growing musically. I mean, we're still getting a lot of hits. Bloodgood is getting a lot of hits on Spotify. So the music is living on, and the legacy through the film is a story that is a great story that actually is about Bloodgood, but it also represents a lot of the other Christian metal bands. They went through a lot of similar things, and so it's a representation of what was going on at the time, historically. And it turns out that Chris Jericho is producing a new documentary film of the history of Christian rock. Wow. I think Chris was so inspired by Trenches of Rock that he wants to do a story, and he's actually filming me in Seattle at the El Corazon August 22nd.
That's amazing.
And he's going to interview me, and it's going to be the beginning of his film that he's going to do. Probably it's going to be another year and a half before it gets out there. But he's into it. So he's already started that. He's got a film crew that he's bringing to Seattle August 22nd to the El Corazon, where we opened for Stryper,
That's so cool.
just a couple years ago. But yeah, it's amazing. So the legacy is just going to continue. And the cool thing about the legacy of Bloodgood is we're talking about current news. Jesus Christ is not some ancient figure. He's timeless. Anything and everything about him is current. It's not old hat to talk about Jesus Christ. I mean, he is the beginning and the end, so he's outside of time. So we're always going to be right in the center of the good news of Jesus Christ, regardless of what happens.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just miraculous, actually.
Yeah.
How it just keeps growing.
That's awesome. Well, let me ask you I'll start to wind down here. What song and what record are you most proud of? I know that's tough. I know it's tough.
Yeah, I can never change my answer with this. It's like every song is like a child.
That's what everyone says.
It just is. And for artists, we find things in our songs that are so personal to us that it's really hard to say, yeah, this is it. But I mean, just the other day, forgive me if I don't, maybe Joyce can tell me, but a song, Escape from the Fire, was covered by a band. Do you know their name, Joyce?
I can look it up.
Okay, yeah, we might as well plug them because they're doing it. But they did a cover of Escape from the Fire with a female singer.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, wow, I really like that song. Oh, yeah, I wrote that. And it was kind of cool, I'm not saying that's my favorite song, but it was really awesome to see someone cover that.
Yeah.
And then there was another song that was covered, America, a metal band. Really, they just kicked butt on that. Can you say butt? Yeah, I guess you can.
Oh, yeah. We can
Gluteus Maximus. I mean, they just...
Okay.
So my historian is looking these things up.
You're fine.
Forgive me if I maybe forgot names of bands and groups, but it's just because I'm old.
It's okay.
Cut me some slack, folks.
Dude, it's okay. It's totally fine. I just, man, I'm just really honored to have had you on this podcast, and I really appreciate you being transparent. I know Michael, was such a massive part of your life, and I could tell in the way you were talking and your tone, how it still affects you. So I just appreciate you being really transparent and just.
I had a dream last night of Michael, and it felt so real, and it was like we were so happy to see each other.
I don't know the YouTube is called.
It was real, and it felt like, wow, I have missed you so much. And he expressed that to me, and I it was a dream, and I think it's the first dream that I ever really have had since he passed. And it's good that it came so I could say this publicly. But I think that we're going to be, all of us, we're all going to be reunited one day with our loved ones. And Jesus, when he says something, it's happening. And so that's the way it's going to be. And I can't explain how he can pull that off. I have no concept of how he can do what he does. But he is able to do that. Yeah. And so I rejoice in that. And I just happened to have that dream last night. And it was one of those, wow. It was so fulfilling. It was so loving, and it was like a reunion. It was good.
I love that. I love hearing that, man.
So, Jeremy, I'm excited. Joyce and I are going to do a Kickstarter. We've got great.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what the future looks like. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, we've got great music, and you asked me about what my favorite songs are. I've got some new favorite songs that haven't even been out there yet. I have so many favorite Bloodgood songs that I don't know. I mean, they're for different reasons, but I can tell you. Let's start with the ones I don't like. There are none.
Hey, there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that at all.
Yeah, but I guess if somebody was saying, well, what is it? What's the one? I'd have to say The Messiah is probably one of the best songs.
Great song.
Great song. And Top of the Mountain.
Yeah.
Just for hearing from people that, where it really hit their heart. I think that those are two. And then Never Be the Same that Michael wrote. I think people just have absolutely loved that song, and Michael wrote that song, and it was always just such a great, uplifting song, to perform.
I love that.
But
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Les, I know you can't predict the future. What does the future look like for you?
I think that from my perspective now, the future for me looks like one small step at a time, anticipating the glory of God in all of it, whether it's hard or whether it's easy or whether it's abundantly blessed or seemingly lacking. He's in it always. And I don't know that I knew that or have known that, but I'm beginning to know that. And so to me, every breath is important. Every conversation with my grandchildren, with my wife, with my friends, with my podcast guys, it's all important. And I can either be a tree of life or I can be a negative, downer. And I'd rather be, through my testimony, I'd rather be a tree of life. Through the blood of the Lamb and my testimony and the good news that everybody, no matter what you've done, has got a shot into God's kingdom if they believe in the one that God sent. And so, every breath is precious, and every word and every thought and all my actions count. And I would just, if you want some advice from an old man, love God with all your heart, strength, soul, and mind, and your neighbor as yourself. Jesus said this, and that pretty much sums it up.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Les. I really, really appreciate this time you've spent with me. And thank you, Joyce, by the way. I know you weren't on this the whole time, but I appreciate you guys both. I'm really honored to have spent time with you guys. And thank you so much for all the music over the years. It's influenced me and, I know countless others. And I just really am honored that you spent time with me to just tell me your journey. Thank you, listener, for tuning in again and again. I really, really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on this journey with you guys, so thank you for tagging along. If you'd like to add me on Instagram and Facebook at The Rumors Are Truecast, if you'd like to like and subscribe the podcast, you know the drill. So thank you again for listening, and I really appreciate this journey with you. Thank you so much to the legend, Les Carlsen. So honored to have you on this podcast. Been a fan since I was a kid, so it's really cool to hear your perspective on the band overall and just your journey in music. So thank you again to Les Carlsen. Got some incredible artists on the horizon, guys, and you know it. Nostalgia is still a heck of a drug. The podcast is produced by Wesley Hill, artwork by Jared Chase Bowser, and music by Brian Jaron. This episode is dedicated to the memory of my dear friend, producer, and man of many talents, Brian Jaron.